The engine is self-start.
For launch. GC. Go. Guidance. Go. Fido. Go. Prop. Go. GNC. Go. Max. Go. Eagle. Go. Ecom.
Go pending final steps to cabin link check.
2, 1.
Is there anyone here that would like to communicate with us? Can you give us a sign?
Welcome to the Riftnationnetwork, the RNN, putting a slide in your glide and a dip in your hip. Welcome to the mothership, the home of the travelers of the universe. With shows throughout the week, you can find us at Instagram, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and more. Everything you could want, everything you can need right here, right now. From the paranormal to the supernatural. From comedy to the spiritual. And now, your featured show. Shall we begin?
It's showtime, folks!
Podcast may contain material that some listeners may find sensitive, offensive, or disturbing. We strive to create respectful and informative content, but topics discussed may include mature themes such as violence, explicit language, or controversial subjects, triggering content including discussions related to mental health, trauma, or other sensitive issues, explicit language. Occasionally, our guests or hosts may use strong language. While we aim to handle these topics with care and empathy, we encourage listeners to exercise discretion. If you find any content distressing, consider skipping or seeking support. Remember that this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice. If you need assistance, please consult a qualified expert.
Welcome to the Forgotten Library. Where the books whisper, the shadows listen, and the stories refuse to stay quietly on the shelf. I'm your host, Christina Spencer. And each month, we explore one novel together. With 3 one-hour live episodes of immersive, read-aloud chapters. Followed by a live interview with the author who brought the story to life. So find your favorite comfy chair, a soft blanket, and a hot beverage. Light a candle if the darkness scares you. And settle in for story time. Welcome to this week's live episode of Horror, History, and Hauntings Library.
Hello, welcome all my creepy little weirdos. Welcome again to the Horror, History, and Haunting Library. Surprise! Derek I appreciate him so much putting extra time in this week. We had some technical difficulties on Friday that we had to work through. So we had to do some workarounds, my redneck ingenuity. But he is with us here today. So yeah, surprise. I wanted to get this done and out before introduction on Friday with our new author. So we didn't fall behind schedule. And I really, 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 really wanted to do this interview. It's been so much like this past month with everything that we've been doing. And Derek's been so understanding as I learn how to do things and how everything works. And I greatly appreciate him. And without further ado, our author spotlight of the week is Derek Barton. Hi, Derek.
How's it going?
Good, good, good. Oh my gosh, we had some trouble on Friday.
Yes, we did. So thank you again for this, great opportunity to come on here, and I really appreciate you, showcasing my book and helping me spread about my writing. So it's been a really great experience and a wonderful opportunity. So it's been my honor.
Oh, thank you so much for that. But really, like, it's my little passion project here, and I just greatly appreciate you working with me and like taking the time out because I know we've been together now a month, so we've got to know each other a little bit. And like I said, there's been some learning curves along the way, and Derek's been so patient and understanding. And the book in question that he is talking about right now was the Eclipse Part One, which I have right here, Derek Barton. And it's where the ordinary man breaks, a city meets its butcher. And we read through all the way up to chapter 8, I think. I think it's where we left off. And there's still more chapters to be read. So I wanted to make sure the ending stayed a surprise. So you have an opportunity to check his book out, which you can find at Amazon or on his website. We also, because like I said, there's learning curves with everything. We thought we'd have enough content for 3 episodes. It turned out, without giving away the ending, we wouldn't have enough for 3. So he lovingly sent me some anthologies where he had some short stories. So we did do that on the 3rd episode, all of which you can see the readings for both the Eclipse and the 2 short story books, which I'm going to introduce here in a second, on my YouTube channel or the Rift Radio Network YouTube channel. And then also you can find them, of course, on Spotify, Audible. I think it's on Apple. Anywhere you can find podcasts, you should be able to find the Horror History and Haunting Library. Now, the short stories that we covered was one from Victims, a horror short story collection from Derek Barton, Brian Gotti, and T.D. Barton. And here's the camera. Be nice to me. Here. It doesn't like black on black. So here's Victims. I love the cover on this one. I really do. And the last one was Gates of Hell Unleashed, The Fear House. And this is a complete anthology, which if you're unfamiliar with anthologies, it's just a collection of short stories by different authors. So definitely check out. All of those are on Amazon. I really wish I would have mirrored my screen. I just realized it's backwards. But yeah, it should be in the links in the description. If not, because I didn't really set up a pre thing, so I don't think I have a description when it goes live. But any of the other 3 episodes should have all the links for all of the his author page and Amazon. So you should be able to link up with him through Amazon and purchase these books. They're all really, really great. Great reading. The Eclipse I got through in a day. Like, if you're looking for a fast, quick horror, novel, this is definitely something you want to check out. All right. That out of the way. Derek.
Yes.
What? Finally, we're sitting down. We're having the discussion. Now, the first person
can be such an
right? It's fantastic, but I hate it all in the same boat. With Eclipse. Now, we left off. I don't want to give too much about the ending. First off, there's a lot more that's going to happen with these characters. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, so this is part 1, like you said, and then I'm currently 3/4 through part 2, and then there's going to be part 3, and I hope to have all of it completed and then published by hopefully mid-year or 3/4 of the way through this year. So the whole story will be told in 2026.
And you're doing this episodically in small novellas like this one, correct?
So actually, I wanted to do the first one like that, to to basically get it out there. But then I changed my mind. Instead of doing two more like that, I decided I'm just going to put it all together. So all three will be republished here by the end of the year together. So,
Okay.
but
I
it's
think
still
you
good to
told
have
me
that
that, but
because
I
it's,
wanted.
yeah, I wanted a collector's edition. I was doing a big book signing, so I wanted to have that as a a collector's edition. So it's still available, but once I get everything together, I'll take that off Amazon. So like I said that'll be a nice collector's edition for those that picked it up already.
Wonderful. And I know if you go to his author's page, it's written out all his works that he has done, and he has done a number of different pieces of fiction, horror fiction. So make sure you check out his list. There's a ton he's done if you look at his list. Um, and you have also another series. Um, I can't think of the name.
Yeah,
My name's Elu.
I
No,
have two
is
other
it Elu?
series that I started with. So I did a fantasy series, and that's all out. It's a 5-part series, epic fantasy. And then I have a standalone fantasy that I will continue here eventually. And my horror stuff. So my first horror series, which is about a young man who's had a criminal past, made some mistakes when he was young, and he actually walks into a crime scene and is immediately finding himself under the microscope, and everyone assumes it's him. So he has
Mm-hmm.
not only elude the police and the real detective, but the real serial killer who keeps leaving the bodies and making it look like him. So he finds
Oh wow.
himself the patsy. So it's kind of I don't know if many people remember it, but the old Fugitive television series where, the man was always running from the police and yet saying, I didn't do this, but no one believes him. So, it's similar with this. He has to elude the police and elude the real serial killer. And it all takes place in my home city of Phoenix. So I give you a nice little tour of the dark side of Phoenix. And then, so from that, I also then did another series after Elude called Evade. Kind of see a little trend here. Elude, Evade, Eclipse. But Evade is more of a supernatural crime story and has a lot more supernatural elements. So some demonic presence, basically.
Okay, so
Evade is
he's a good author to check out if you like different genres, but you like his writing style. That's why I wanted to mention those, because like I know that the one was fantasy, and it sounds like the other one is like a dark murder mystery yumminess for our book nerds out there. Um,
yeah.
like
So
when
I'm working
you're
on book
writing
21.
see, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. I just know when I was reading through it, I was like, wow, like there's a lot of stuff here, and it's like it's interesting, like a broad spectrum. It wasn't just horror, because typically like a writer will pick one genre and that's kind of what they sink their teeth in, but you kind of cover a gambit of different genres, which is really cool. um
I,
and
um,
I know the
I grew up with a big interest and love of epic fantasy. The Hobbit was especially my favorite growing up, and then as a teenager and a young, I played D&D a lot, and so I've always had that background. I've always loved that story genre, so that's what got me into finally deciding to write a book. So in 2016, I published my first book, and that was the epic fantasy series. And then after my first two books, someone basically said, I'd really love to see what you could do with your horror, because they could, they knew me from growing up, and they knew that I had a big interest in Stephen King, and was, reading everything by Stephen King. So
They're like, we love your fantasy. Let's see what you do with this kind of setting,
yeah,
and um,
I found
and you
I
touched.
found that your horror sold much better, so I decided I gotta let's for that for a while. So I've gone back
Yeah,
to the
that's
fantasy
definitely a
before
good
that.
motivator. I agree
Yeah,
with that. But you kind of touched on it. Like, a lot of people don't know, I'm a big D&D nerd too. Back in the day, I've got my Dungeon Master's Guide over there. I'm looking right at it.
all right.
Um, so it's like I get what you're coming from. Like, there's something about the storytelling in D&D and the worlds that you're able to create that it goes hand in hand. I think with a lot of
Totally, yeah.
writers and things. It just made me
Mhm.
laugh when you said that. I was like, yeah, I can, definitely say that. And you
Yeah, it
touched
totally
on
turned
it a
me on
little
how to
bit about
become a
your
storyteller.
inspirations. Hmm.
Or what? There's a little bit of delay,
That's
so I apologize.
Oh, you're fine. That's why I said we're working through technical stuff. So, please be patient with us. We were talking about D&D and stuff, and you kind of touchstoned on your inspirations. And
Mhm.
what inspires you, or what gets you in the zone to write a really good story?
Um, it a lot of times I find various motivations. Even when I'm like going in one direction, a song may influence me. Um,
Hold on 1 second. We got to link back up. Yeah, unfortunately, technical things. We have to go through like a meeting room. So I'm sure he's sending me a new link as we speak. So we'll jump back into the conversation in just a second. But yeah, like while he's sending me that, we could talk a little bit about the book. If you haven't read the book yourself, it is a very interesting journey a gentleman takes on because he suffers a traumatic, it sounds like a traumatic brain injury, and he had some dark thoughts before then, but he never really acted on them. He was always a little bit afraid to go into the dark side. So what he when he gets into a car accident, it causes that dark side to take on its own persona. And it's a fabulous introduction to the character of Vile, which is like his internal monologue, his demon on the shoulder. And then you just have the other side of the coin is that you get to know the detective who ultimately, I guess, they're going to have a confrontation. I think we have him coming back. Give us 1 second here. Just thank you for understanding your patience. It's waiting, and then we'll get you bebop back into the room here. Oh, okay. Sorry about it, guys. And the things when you do things live, man. Nope, don't need that. Okay, I'm gonna wait for him to come back. Come back to me, my friend. As soon as he gets back in, we'll get him back over to the live stream. Oops. Let me go back. Try again. Oh, okay. Just, yeah, get out of there. Give it a sec. Patience, Christina, patience. Stop clicking. I have to tell myself that quite often. So we'll just give it a minute here for a second. But that's a short synopsis of Eclipse. I would definitely check it out. In the back, and an ordinary life can change in an instant. A violent car crash shatters Mitchell's world. The aftermath unleashes something sinister within him, igniting a dark necessity to kill. Soon, Chicago trembles under the shadow of the Black Frost Butcher. Two men are on a collision course, one fueled by compulsion, the other by duty. Only one will walk away. So that was Eclipse. In Gates of Hell, we covered his short story Suicide for Suckers. And it led us on a very gory story about a gentleman that runs into H.H. Holmes as a agent of the devil and gives him a deal that he can't refuse. So he goes on this adventure of trying to be a better man, or that's what he's supposed to do. And in a lot of ways I think he did, but I don't think he didn't understand the consequences of making that deal. Uh-oh. I'm loud. Let me shush. There we go. I think I fixed that.
Can you hear me okay?
You're echoing. Let me do this.
How about
That's
now?
better. Yes, much better.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you see me okay?
That's the thing that I'm trying to fix now, because I don't see you, I see me.
Mhm.
Let me figure it out.
Hmm. Well, I do apologize for all this
No.
going
It's
on.
okay. We've had the issues. Oh, it's fine.
One thing after another with this.
I gotta figure out how to flip flop us. That's the thing. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
But you can.
No, I just see me. But let me see if I can figure that out. That's probably my me being me. Hold on. Window, maybe. I'm a struggling man. I'm a struggling. I'm trying to figure out why it's showing me and not you. Hide self view. There we go. I found you.
There I am.
What an adventure that was. Sorry about that, guys. That's why I said it's been one thing out of the other. And I was telling Derek before the show, I'm like, we are doing this no matter what. We are figuring this out, because I wanted to make sure that we got this out to everybody. But getting back, I went through Gates of Hell. I went through the Eclipse while we were having technical difficulties. The only one that I didn't go over is the short story for victims, and it was I don't want to say it wrong.
The long stretch.
Yeah, the long stretch.
The
I
tunnel.
thought I was going to say the long road, and I knew it was wrong. So I wanted to make sure I said it right.
No problem.
The long stretch, which is, to me, I don't know if it was your intention, but it reminded me of a very purgatory type of tale. Um, the waiting to see like what happened. Like even though you don't really know what happens after, like you kind of do. They kind of tell you,
Yeah.
like you'll have to read it to understand what I'm talking about. But he leaves it in such a way that you know what's going to happen, but you don't know 100% that's what happened, and
Right.
you think that
Well,
you know that
ambiguous
that's the
at the end.
ending, right? And you think it's the end, but with death, there's always like what's beyond, what comes after, and it kind of messes with that a little bit. Like
A
it's
lot
like
of people
that's why I said
said
it
they
kind of
liked
reminds me
this
of
story because
Purgatory.
a lot of people said it reminded them of an old Twilight Zone kind of a style story. It was,
Yeah,
a
yeah, it
character
seriously
finding
could have been
himself
an
like
episode for that.
in a very bizarre situation and has no idea how to get out of it. So
Mhm.
that,
And he's trying to figure out
that
what's
was
going
actually
on.
inspired just by my way going to work. I was driving along and I ended. We have a tunnel in Phoenix, and it was going on, and I thought maybe it was a pretty cool background to a story. What if you were trapped in a tunnel that just wouldn't stop?
Yeah,
So
and that's pretty
that's the
wild, like
inspiration for that one.
yeah, and it's like
So
there's nothing to help you either. He's just got what he was given, and that's what he's left with. So it's an
yeah, he's not even
interesting
got a cell phone. He's got a little flip phone that thing.
right? That only has one number. Yeah, you'll have to read it. It's a really, really, really good story. And there's lots of other stories in here that are really good. Um, so definitely check out that. I don't want to give too much
They
information,
can either read
out.
it or they can listen to your great rendition of it on your YouTube
Oh,
channel.
thank you. Yeah, because I did read the short stories in full on the last episode. Eclipse, like I said, I left the ending because I wanted to leave it
Right.
something for you to be itching to finish.
So,
But
as far as my motivation, what inspired me for Elude was Stephen King had done a book series called Mr. Mercedes. That was the original. And he was inspired by a news article where he had read that someone had plowed into a line of people and killed several people with their car. And he, used that for his inspiration. And I love the book, but I really like the idea of blending almost a true crime aspect with some horror and supernatural elements. So that's where Elude came from, and then later Evade. Somebody wrote me. They said they loved Elude up until there was some supernatural, and they said that kind of threw them off. It does say on the cover, so it's like it shouldn't have been a surprise, but whatever. It's not for one. That's fine. But they said in the review they would love to see what I would do with a full-on true crime story, and that was my inspiration for doing Eclipse. I'm like, okay, you want to see me go hardcore true crime? All right, we'll do that. So that's what this is. Eclipse is a serial killer who starts up in Chicago, and it's just a really, if you look at the cover again, that right there, how it's a lot darker than my normal horror, and it crosses some lines that I haven't crossed before. Some really dark sequences. I know you read the chapter where he talks about how he climbs into the trunk with the victim at one point. And that wasn't even in my outline when I wrote that. So I was just like, I had to stop it. I'm like, what's going on?
where did that happen?
But it felt
Woo!
natural when I was writing it. And so the character just kind of took over and said, no, I want to go in there. So I'm like, I'm like, ooh, that is really dark, really grim and gory. And I thought, maybe I've crossed too much, but I've gotten a lot of praise on it. So I'm going to continue the series. He's definitely my hardest to like character, that's for sure. He's not an anti-hero. He's definitely a villain, but at the same time, you get to understand motivations,
Yes, psyche.
and yeah. And of course, like you had mentioned, there's an inner aspect to him that he calls vile, and he has debates about morality and his decisions, and he has to basically he has to keep control of vile, or vile will push him into directions he's not always sure he wants to go in. So
Mhm. Well, and I don't like whenever I read it, and this is my interpretation. To me, Mitchell really wasn't. He had dark thoughts, and he had this side of him that he hid. But I think it hits something with everybody because all of us have dark thoughts that pop into our heads,
yeah, he's not willing
spontaneous things
to.
that we can't control, but we control ourselves where we don't fixate it. We're like, whoa, where did that come from? Like our
Yeah,
conscious kicks in. So at the beginning, Mitchell is, I just feel like he is devil on his shoulder is a little bit louder than his angel,
um,
Vile kind of
and
barks at him, but he's not even vile yet. So,
yeah, in one scene in part two that I've been writing, Vile says, "Hey, by the way, congratulations, your first victim was Mitchell." He says, "You're not Mitchell anymore." That's why he only goes by Mitch.
mhm.
It's like an alter ego that switched over, and he refuses to be Mitchell anymore. He only wants to be called Mitch. That actually is based on a true experience. I I won't name names, but in my high school, during one summer between sophomore and senior, one of the students, something happened. And when he came back, he only wanted to be called, well, we'll just say Jeff. His name was something completely different, but suddenly he just wanted to be called Jeff. He got
Mhm.
adamant and almost aggressive about it, which was strange because the guy was really kind and really, seemingly really like Mitchell was a
Mhm.
gentle person. So I think about a month or so into our senior year, he ended up stabbing his parents and going after some other people, and he got put in the insane asylum. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's
so
rough. Like, I had no
no one
idea.
ever really talks about the fact that he suddenly switched to Jeff, but I kind of noted that because it was completely different. He had this other personality suddenly after, I don't know what happened over the summer, but that was kind of an influence to me. It's something I kept in the back of my mind that,
Yeah, it
and then I've read
profoundly
other
affected
stories
you,
where people have
obviously.
had, yeah, other people have had severe personality changes after a head trauma. And I thought that'd
Yep.
be a really interesting storyline. So
Yeah,
that was my influence.
it definitely did. It's very impactful, and I do know what you're talking about. Traumatic brain injury. A lot of cases, when there's a a large trauma to the brain, the cranium, that there is huge personality shifts, and it can be as drastic as taking on a whole different persona and how they act and speak and think. Like they become a different person, and it's unfortunate, and a lot of times it's aggression. I don't know why that
Yeah.
is that gets triggered with those. um Prime example was I was reading like that a guy got a naple, I think it was nail gun in the
Mm.
brain, and when they removed it, he was a completely different person. So it happens more, than, and now
I
like we
mean,
know more
it's
about
part of the
psychology
reason
of the
they
brain.
went with lobotomies, back in the day. They saw that you could affect a person's personality by affecting the brain. The way they did it was very horrific, of course. You know,
Hmm.
so.
Yeah, if you're unfamiliar with lobotomies, they
It's
basically
funny.
took an ice
I've
pick.
been learning more about this through my father. He's been doing a book of his own, and he's researching insane asylums And a part of it
Yeah.
has to do with lobotomies and the various different treatments they did for people back in the day that were more akin to torture.
hmm
So
But it
that
like I was saying, like if you're unfamiliar with what a lobotomy is, it's basically they took a long and looked like an ice pick is basically what they used, like a
yeah,
surgical ice pick, and a hammer, and they literally went in right here at the corner of the eye,
yeah,
and like pushed through that area in a diagonal up into the frontal lobe of the brain and basically scrambled it. They would move it all around into the brain and then retrieve it back out. And it the frontal part of your brain is what gives you your personality. It gives you your
decision
reasoning
making.
skills. Yeah. And what they were basically doing was causing these people brain damage and not realizing, yeah, it fixed the behavior, but you're
Of
erasing the
course.
person in the process.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that. But yeah, it's horrific. Like, and that's kind of it's small hit on the head can really have a dramatic effect. And you really, really demonstrate that well in Eclipse. Like, because everybody, like I said, I
Thank you.
always think everybody has a little bit of the devil in your shoulder type of thing that goes on. Like, you should have said this to her, you shouldn't have let her talk to you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody has that, but not to the extent Mitch does. But he keeps that
Right,
dark side under control, and he has these fantasies, but he doesn't ever act on them. And it's not until the
right.
car accident that Vile has the time to come out and play, and he starts to really enjoy what he's doing. And yeah, just viewer discretion. The
And I will
trust
say this,
me,
that Bio
is
is not
very
any
gory.
kind of supernatural or any kind of like
Uh,
demonic presence. It's completely his conscience. He just, it's a foil for him to be able to work things out, you know. He's
mhm.
literally talking to himself, but, you know, I like I said, I wanted to do a book that was strictly without any kind of demonic or any kind of occult, you know,
But
influence.
that's even scarier because that's like there's always like I'm a big paranormal that's my cup of tea, but being a parapsychologist, like I believe in it, but there is always the case unless you have actual 100% scientific proof, there's always that 0.0001% that it couldn't be real. But with this book, it's very plausibly real. Like, even though it's based on fiction, um, if you've ever been around somebody that's had some sort of like severe psychological issues, like that's where you hear that's the scariest part because it is so real and it could happen at any time. Somebody could snap and be this dark. I mean, you see it all the time on television, on the news.
Right.
So to me,
I mean, look at
people
Ted
are the
Bundy.
scariest things of all. Like I'm scared of people more than I am the paranormal by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah. Look at Ted Bundy. I mean, he was able to hide all that he did, and he eventually he admitted, to his, you know, dark um, necessities, but it's it was amazing that few people could fall for his charm, and still,
Hmm.
even after he was sentenced, he would get all sorts of letters and love letters and
Right?
fans, and even to this day, people talk about him still, in a more of a positive light than like you would say John Wayne Gacy or Jeffrey Dahmer,
Hmm.
So
But all those cases, like they did an excellent job of hiding what they were doing for so long. Like
yeah,
the BTK killer, like
oh yeah,
he yeah, I love the
yeah,
reaction. Yeah, everybody, I mean,
yeah,
he had a whole life and kids and like did all
yeah.
that stuff
Even
and
in the
nobody had
and
any
her family
idea
had no idea. I
that he
mean,
had that.
I think you have suspicions, but there's never like especially when they're family, you're not gonna like question it because you're like, oh no, I can't. That can't be.
You would
He's too
never do
nice.
something like
I
that.
know
Yeah.
him. No, you don't.
And
So,
that's the stuff, like, it gives me chills to think about, because people are so
yeah,
much more terrifying than anything supernatural, in my opinion, because we are capable of such deviant darkness to each other that it just, and most supernatural cases are due to like extreme traumatic events. And who creates the traumatic events? People themselves. Like, so that to me is more scary of like just the idea, because
well,
especially
I
in the
mean, look
scene
at
where
what.
she thinks she's just getting pulled over by the nice, county cop, and she's not even thinking that she's in danger, because she's more worried about getting home to her son to finish this art project that has to get done. Like,
Right.
she's not even in the radar
Up
that
to
this
the
could
end, she
happen
has
to
no
her.
idea what she's doing. But when she realizes he's practiced, he's got this down in his mind like a science. He knows exactly what
Mhm.
he's doing, and even though it's his first victim, she has no idea that. You know,
Right.
so
Yep,
if you
he
look
has a
at
plan for sure.
look at H.H. Holmes. He built a whole hotel with the purpose of murdering mass murder. I mean, he didn't build that hotel just to kill one person, you know.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
he was
if you
big
ever
time
get,
businessman for a long time. People
yeah,
followed
that,
him very well.
oh yeah, like I've done deep dives into H.H. Holmes, because I was going to do an episode on him, but there's so much information about him, like it would really be hard to fit into like even a regular podcast, because he's such an
So
interesting character of the stuff that he was capable of doing and what depravity he did, like in a cold, like he put on this persona of exactly like Mitchell, where he was a very kind, gentle, sweet gentleman that had all this money and all this success, but deep down he was a sick individual, and he did not see people as people. Like, they were
nope,
entertainment and ways to
boys.
make money. They, it's awful. And the whole Myrtle Castle, um will blow your mind if you ever research it, because he had chambers that were set up for gas. He had pathways to
He would hire
nowhere.
new. He would either hire or mysteriously make disappear the architects of certain areas of the hotel.
Hmm.
So,
The people that would build on
when
it.
you
He
were
had body
reading
issues
my story from
from
Gates
the
of
second floor to
Hell
the basement.
Unleashed, when you're reading Suicide for Suckers, what did you
Uh-huh.
think of Holmes? Did I capture
Yeah.
him well? Did you realize
Yeah.
that was Holmes?
Yeah.
Okay. Some people didn't, some people it slipped through when they read that, but that's fine, But I really wanted to, kind of capture what would happen to somebody who's that horrific after they died. What would be them? Well, of course, if there is a hell, they're going to use somebody like that. So
Hmm.
that's how it was influenced with that story.
Yeah, most I because I think you actually say it's H.H. Holmes at the beginning.
Yeah, but he
But
says his name is H.H. Holmes, but not everybody clues into that,
right.
who that is. So,
But I'm a dark queen, and I research things normal people don't. So like I already deep dived into H.H. Holmes. And I've
I asked, did
actually,
I capture him right? 'Cause I wanted to
yeah,
know
yeah,
from a true fan.
most definitely. Yeah, because Jeff Mudgett, which is his grandson, we're friends on Facebook, and he like the way he depicts his grandfather in the pictures that I've seen and the documentaries and stuff, like, yeah, you very hit on his look. Like, it may not been exactly his MO per se, but if you're a fan of true crime and serial killers, then the name itself will jump out at you. It's like, oh, that
Yeah,
guy. Um, but yeah, because he's a bad mojo dude, man. Like,
yeah.
he is cold as ice. and that's he's perfect for like a lieutenant, like a demon lieutenant or something like that, or like a crossroads demon, as they would say back in Supernatural. But yeah,
Yeah.
I love him as that character, and the fact, like, yeah, he makes a deal, but the guy makes the deal and he doesn't realize the consequences that he's accepting along with this deal. So you always have a deal with the devil, you always pay its due. So he learns the hard
Yeah.
way, and it always is leaning to the gambit's leaning towards what the devil wants, not what you want, you know. So,
Also is win.
yep. House always wins. I was trying to think how to say that. I couldn't. So yeah, definitely. And that's just one short story in these anthologies. And
Yeah.
you can see there's a lot of material with this book.
Yeah.
So it's worth your money. You know, if you're looking for something short, sweet, you know, you can put down, pick back up, and have a whole different tale in a different world. It's an awesome way to spend your time in the evening or in these cold days that we've been having.
Well, if you do get a time, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you write a quick review on Amazon for us.
Yes, yes, please do that. I need to do that, by the way. Um, you'll have to remind me, send me a message because ADHD. Um, but I'll definitely do that with everything. And also, like, and you were talking about the fact that you outline. Would you consider yourself a planner, like a specific planner, or are
Oh
you more like
yeah,
a pantser or a planter combination?
a pantser. Yeah,
Mhm.
you know, I quickly found out I'm not the type of person that can write from the seat of the pants. If I tried that, my writing tends to meander. So I need to know ahead of time my roadmap. So I can get away with more freestyle in my horror, as far as like I'll have a base outline of what they call a beats outline, and I'll
Mhm.
follow that pretty good, pretty religiously. Like I said, once in a while the characters go, no, 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 I'm doing this, and then I have to rewrite, where I'm going with my outline. But that only happens when a really, strong idea comes to mind. I try to stick with my outlines. They're like my rough drafts, my first rough draft, basically. But yeah, especially with the fantasy as well, you have so many characters and so many world building aspects. You have to do a really thorough, what they call world Bible, in order
Mhm.
to keep it realistic and keep everything in mind. So
Yeah,
I
keep it
remember when I was
consistent.
trying to read George R. Martin's Game of Thrones, I literally had an Excel chart with all the characters and where they were in the story because I couldn't follow it. I had to do that just to be able to read the rest of it. So
Yeah, he does. Like, it's hard to keep track what's going on in his books, most
yeah,
definitely. And just so
and then
people at
then he
home
killed off
knows,
so many of them.
yeah,
It's
it's like,
pretty
why?
thick in
I
Excel
was
chart.
following this for so long now. Yeah, but
Yeah,
to just explain to the people at home, if you don't know what we're talking about, when a writer writes, there's typically three ways. These are the most common ways. One is called a planner, which is somebody that does a detailed outline, and some people go into the most extreme detail of the scenes as they write
yeah.
and everything. And then you have
My
what they
pick
call
would
a
be a
pantser.
plotter, planner.
Yeah. And they call a pantser, which basically they're the gods. I don't know how they do it, of being able to just sit down and just hit the keyboard and they just write a novel. I don't know how they do it. And then you have the plancer, which I consider myself more of a plancer. I kind of have an outline and I kind of think about the scenes, but I really don't flush a whole lot out until I sit down to write that chapter, and then I'll flush the scenes out and do that kind of stuff. So, those are the three types if you didn't know. And you were talking about I lost my thought.
Well, like I said, I'm a true plotter. I have to follow my outline in some fashion, or I'll lose track where I'm going with the story. And if I'm losing track, I know the reader is. So um, funny thing is,
I
my
remember
dad, who
them.
also writes, my dad also writes, and he is a true pantser. He will write thousands and thousands of words without outlines. And it just blows my mind. Although he's
Right?
come to
Yeah.
me sometimes and said, I don't know how we get my character out of this part. I've literally ran my character up a tree and now they can't get down. How do I get out of this scene? So, but yeah, he's he's really good at that. I have to be more guided or I'm lost. So
Yeah, my boyfriend's the same way. He can sit down and just pound out words like that. And I'm just like, how do you do and keep all that in your head? I guess my ADHD, I have to have some sort of, guidelines to go through to make things happen. But I consider them, they are blessed to be able to think that way and that far in
yeah.
advance and stuff. But and also I
Although,
remembered my thought that I lost. He was
oh,
talking about what they call a world Bible. Basically,
yes,
world Bibles are a creation that writers use that's basically like a binder, and they keep all their information in on the world that they create, like their magic rules, character creations, the
history.
different realms, the races, the all that goes into what they call their Bible. So when they continue with the series, they can keep everything consistent. I just wanted to explain that
Yeah.
because I know because a lot of people are being carried over from the regular podcast. They may not be writers specifically, so I want to make sure I'm explaining all of the terms so everybody's aware of what we're talking about anyway. So we talked about your writing process and your inspiration, and you explained. I had no idea the dark history on your um the Eclipse, where the inspiration came from. So obviously, you write from personal experience in life, which I think a lot of writers do that. Now, if somebody was starting out writing, what is if you could pick one piece of advice, what would you give them?
Write for you. Write for you first. Don't worry about what anybody else is going to say. Get your story done first. Tell your story to you and see if you like it and how you want to change it. Then, then worry about others. Because if you keep worrying about everybody else, you'll never get anywhere. You'll keep talking yourself out of your story. So tell yourself the story first. Do with it as you see fit, and then see how you want to tweak it, and then get feedback. You know, Feedback's good, but you got to keep in mind the person they're giving it, are they looking to help you create a better story, or some people are trolls. Some people they just love to tear down people.
Mhm.
So
Some
if
people get
anybody's giving
jealous if
you
you're
feedback that is
succeeding.
so devastating or detrimental to what you're doing, disregard that, because they're not in it to help you. They're in it to make themselves, whatever reason, feel better by knocking you down. So you can't
Mhm.
judge your writing on one person's point of view, because you can't please everybody. I mean, look at Stephen King. A man has sold millions and millions of books and made so much money. But I mean, even he still has a lot of different people that don't like his work, or like some, don't like others. You can't please everybody because there's so many people out there with so many different tastes and interests. So
Absolutely, I
can't worry
agree with
about that.
that. Yep, you have
So
to
that would be my advice. It's for you. Be happy with you and ignore your inner critic. Get your story written first.
yeah, just write the story, damn it. Put it on paper. Um,
Well, that's the
so
name of
I
my.
know.
I host the writing group on Tuesdays in Phoenix, and it's through it's a national organization called Shut Up and Write. So we get
I love
together.
that.
Once a week, and we write for about an hour and a half.
Oh, that's
So
awesome. Awesome. That sounds
helps
like
me
a
keep
really good
productive.
organization. especially getting them to sit and write because that's hard. Like as somebody that's been trying to write, like trying to find time to sit in front of a keyboard undistracted when you have ADHD, it can be fun at
Yeah.
times. But yeah, but once you sit down and you do it, and you're like, wow, like it wasn't so bad when I sit down. Like I got you actually like relax and it's fun. But sometimes getting your butt in the seat is the hardest thing. Um, do
Yep.
you plan
Gotta get yourself a kind
your
of a
writing
ritual
time?
or a habit.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
What's that?
I was going to ask you, like, do you have like a specific ritual? Do you plan it out on the calendar of specific time frames during the day? Like, how do you find time
I
to write
just know
usually?
that I have a limited time to write. I have my days off. I work a full time night job, a graveyard shift, as a security officer. So I don't have the freedom a lot of times to just write whenever I want. That'd be great if I could retire on that, but unless you sell like
One day,
Stephen King, you don't make Stephen King money. So
right?
so currently, I would say that on my days off, I know for sure that I got to get some writing done, and I usually write at night when the families go to bed, and especially with my writing. The darker the night is, the better. So
Right.
my room's pitch black, and I got music going on. So but with my fantasy, in fact, I tried to use like epic music, like soundtracks. Lord of
Hmm.
the Ring kind of thing. So it's good to have things that help inspire you or keep you in the mood for what you're writing.
And do you sit down and just like, are you one of those people that can just sit and write, or do you have to do like a Pomodoro, like 30 minutes with a break? Like, are you
Nope.
just
I
like
can just sit down and write.
steamroller?
Like
That's good. That's good.
last night I was at work, and it was about 2 o'clock in the morning, and I decided, what, I want to get some writing. So I wrote another 600 words night on my phone. That's the great thing about today's technology. You can write anywhere on
Right?
anything.
I have this awesome little keyboard. I think it's right down there actually. It's a 7 keys, and you can just put your keyboard in it, and it sounds like one of those, the mechanical like old typewriter, that
Oh, nice.
textile. I love that thing, and it clicks when I do it. But I have to make sure like I'm not bugging other people with it. I enjoy it. Maybe nobody else does, but the technology we have nowadays, it makes writing so much simpler in a lot of ways and accessible for people. What's your thoughts on AI in this new world that we live in?
A quick side note: the link is about to end for us, so we may have to jump again. As far as AI goes, I would never ever use AI to create content. I would use AI in ways like marketing. I use it for my blurb to help me have a sharper blurb, a sales pitch, but never
Hmm.
for content. And I think that as creative as AI is already getting, and
Hmm.
as prolific it's already getting in the market, something we're going to have to face. But I think that, you know, I think readers are still going to always want true human content. I
Right.
don't think they're
It's
going to
never going to
want,
be the same as like
right.
AI. I definitely agree. Well, we're over
Yeah.
an hour. If we don't want to have to do the switcheroo again, we
Up
can
to
if you
you.
want. Um, but is there anything while we have the time here that you want to talk about? Any conventions, any places to see
I
you,
do have
meet
a
you?
new book coming out. I do have a new book coming out in October. It's another anthology. I have a group of about 20 some writers, and we're doing it on phobias. We've each chosen our separate phobia and doing a short story. So it'll be awesome. You are a part of that. Can't
Yep.
wait to read your story. So
I'm getting it.
it's
I got a couple final edits. I'm waiting on my partner to get back to me. I got to get back to
no,
him. But
no
yeah,
problem.
yeah, it's dark. I pushed a
Good.
lot of boundaries with that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, you'll have to read it and make sure it's okay because I was like, I let my partner read. I'm like, did I go too far? Because that's pretty far.
Sometimes it scares
Um,
you when you write something. You're like,
yeah,
man, why did I think that?
exactly. I'm like, what did I just create? Oh my god! Like that went
So
from
I'll,
being horror to being like dark. Like, what
I
personality
will
wrote
tell this real quick. Hopefully, I get it in before the meeting ends. Um, I had a lady come into our my group, my writing group, and she said, "Does anybody want this textbook?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" She said, "My daughter's quitting her major, which is forensic science." And I said, "Oh," and she says, "Yeah, this textbook is a guide to introduction homicide investigations." I'm like, "Oh, I'll take that right now. Thank you." So it's about, it's a tome about, I'm trying to show you, about that big. I mean, it's real thick. And I was excited and I opened it up, and the first thing I see is a picture of a burnt corpse. I'm like, oh, it was like a slap in the face. Here I am, a horror writer, and I write some really graphic things, but just seeing an actual picture of somebody who actually experienced a horrific end really slapped me. And I thought,
Yeah.
okay, that's a good indication I'm still human and I still have a good side to me. So that's the
I
way to
love
look at
that.
it.
Yeah, because it's scary,
But
man. Because I've always wanted to write horror, but I never you know went into it too deeply. But when I sit down to write that, I was like, where did that come from? Like, what
yeah,
personality created that world? Like, woo! But anyway,
exactly.
yeah. Oh, he left. Oh no. Bear with me. Bear with me. I don't know I'm panicking. There we go. Let's turn that off. And we'll see if he sends another link because I want to make sure he has the time, to do everything or continue our talk here. Just bear with me. Ding. That's probably him. Click, 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 click. Mm, how did I do that? Is it this? No. What? Mute that. Uh-oh. Heard little coughs. Oh, there he is. He had to figure it out for me.
Hello.
Okay. Let's go back. Go back. Go. Go. You can do this. Add new.
What a pain in that.
Hold on. Okay. We got to. There we go. There we go. We're all good now. There's a little bit of an echo.
We're getting to be a expert at this workaround.
Right? I think you're doubling through on me. Hold on. Let me fix it. Yeah, I
I
think you have to.
silenced the mic, so it should be all right.
Oh, I think I need to something. Okay, there we go. I think that fixed it.
How about now?
Yes, much better. Sorry, guys. We're trying. We are making this
we're
happen regardless.
whoa. You don't get that question.
We'll stick with that then. He's like, no, and a screen.
I know.
Yeah, it's good to know, especially when you delve into the darkness like you do with horror. Is there something
Yeah.
like you do to kind of, because you were talking about the images that you saw that reminded you of your
I
humanity
still
and you
can't
wanted
make
your
my way through that
characters?
book. I haven't been able to open that book up very often. I mean, it's really informative and really, really good stuff. But those pictures are so hard because they're not just special effects. They're actual
Right.
living
There are
people,
people that
who
have
suffered
lives
horrific.
and families and things like
Yeah.
that. But when you get to the point where it scares you a little bit, is there something that you do to kind of relieve that darkness? Do you go
And
outside
jump back into my fantasy writing for a little bit.
I find like
So,
when I write and it gets dark, I have to go outside, see the sunshine, and like be a little whimsical, out in the woods or something. I got to bring the light back because I'm like, whoo, that was it affects me for quite a while. It's like it
yeah.
I, it's something.
It,
Like
said,
it takes me places, man.
it
It's
made
like
me
I
feel
like
better about. It made me feel better once I, had that reaction to that picture. I'm like, okay, I got my humanity. You know, so, a lot of times I get inspired by music as well. So, or I have been able to use nightmares as well for my horror. So,
inspiration.
there are a lot of ways to find your stories. Like I said, biggest stories that you want to hear and you want it to be told. So tell yourself a story. In victims, I used the nightmare that I had where, I was on a patrol, went into the restroom, normal shift, and somebody jumped me from behind and suffocated me with a plastic bag. I woke up hyperventilating, sweating, throwing the blankets off, and I'm like, as I'm catching my breath, I'm going, that's gonna be a great story. And I used it in victims. So the story called The Cycle. The main character has that happen to him over and over and over. So he has to figure out why it's happening to him and how to stop it. So,
Wow. Yeah, that's
um,
awful because it's one thing to experience a nightmare and have to go through it the first time, but then to
yeah.
have to do it over and over again, it's like, do you just become numb to it after a while, or is it as traumatic every single time? Like that's
It can be.
interesting to think about.
Um, like I said, another inspiration has been my father. My father didn't write, he wrote a novel in the 90s, and it was called originally The Path. And it's an origin story for the werewolves. And, I'd written my first three novels, I think, by then. And I said to him, whatever happened to that story you wrote back in the 90s? He's like, I don't know. It's probably in a desk drawer somewhere. I said, well, I need you to find that and let's work it together. I said, let's put it out there. We'll do some rewriting and make it more modern and updated. And that's what we did. And at the time, Stranger Things was really popular. That kind of nostalgic horror story. So that's what
Hmm.
we did. We made a 90s nostalgic story about the werewolf and an origin story for the werewolf. So the great thing about that is not only did he, get to experience what he's always wanted to do and get to write a novel and be published, but now he's gone on to write, he's got a total of 7 novels now. He's
Oh
catching
wow.
up to me. Yeah.
It's
So,
becoming a family affair at this point.
yeah. So,
Yeah,
we
I've
we we
corresponded a
split
little bit with your
editing.
dad. hmm
Yeah,
And he's a wonderful guy. I'm gonna try to get him as an author spotlight too, because he's got some interesting stories out there
yes, he
to
does.
share with the world. So I'm gonna try to help him out with that. Um, I wanted to make sure that you had enough time for your for closing thoughts and any like any advice, any conferences, anything that you want to
I
like
do have
tell
a
people.
book signing in March that I'll be doing here locally. Um, it's in Glendale, Arizona, which is a suburb of Phoenix. Let's see. As far as closing thoughts, I do coaching on the side. I try to help new writers and people who want to become self-published. I've not gone the traditional publishing other than like the submissions that I've had for anthologies. So I've been lucky with that, and I've gotten a few magazines. But as far as the traditional publishing route, I just feel these days it's too much control gets put in their hands, and you still do as much work, especially the marketing, that you would do as an independent writer. So I don't feel it's a good trade-off. If I got to do most of the
Right.
work anyway, I might as well get most of the profit and most of the control of my story. I've had a few other authors tell me their horror stories about giving their story up and giving the rights, and then like one lady, she told me that they completely rewrote her ending. I'm like, how
hmm
devastating. That is,
Right.
that would gut me. It's like I wrote, especially your endings. That's the last impression the reader will have of your story. So you got to stick
Right.
it. That's and sometimes a complaint that Stephen King has had is that his endings have been, what was that?
It was actually your bookmark. I was sitting on the book and I bumped it. He sent me these
Okay.
wonderful metal bookmarks um of some of his works, and I sorry, I fidget and I dropped
No
it.
problem. I was like, was that the computer in or, so, but yeah, by the way, that bookmark, Dad painted that.
Oh,
My dad's a good artist.
wow, I had no
He's a
idea.
Renaissance fan.
Oh, wow, let me see if I can get it to look at
Yeah,
that.
that was the
I thought it
original
was like
cover in
AI
four
or
days.
something.
Yeah, well, he painted
Wow.
it, and then I used that cover, used that image for my book cover, and then they took the book cover image and put it on the, laser printed on the metal.
Yeah, on the metal. But no, I thought that I wish it would let me get that's a little better.
Yeah,
But wow, that's
yeah.
amazing. Like I thought it was like AI because everybody does AI stuff now. I wish you could see it in more
No,
detail. It's really
I
pretty.
don't do
Or
AI
it's
either.
it's dark, but it's really cool. There we go.
Yeah.
You can see it.
It shows basically if you in that story, there's a demon that has three eye sockets, but they're empty. So if
Oh
you look
wow.
at that, the eye sockets are empty. But
I know.
that's
I
the
left
demon
it.
that he hunts his victims for 4 days, and on the fourth day, he's done torturing you as far as stalking you and causing you all sorts of problems. So.
And that's the other one.
Yep, that was a alternate fantasy cover for my first book. That was
Oh yeah, that
so,
I was it ASMR? Because that's what I did the first time. But it
yeah,
clanged really bad. I'm sorry. But yeah, he sent me
no
these
problem.
wonderful bookmarks, which I'll probably use all the time now. And I
They're
wanted
great.
I
They
was
really are
waiting.
great book covers. They're stuff. Ah,
Cheers to you.
plenty of shots.
Shots, shots, shots. Victim shots. But
So, like I said, my next books are going to be Eclipse, the complete series, and then my phobia anthology, and then I'm hoping that the following year I do my first ever murder mystery.
Ooh, so
So
I'll be
I'm
on the
going
lookout
into
for that,
then
guys.
a brand
Definitely.
new genre that I've never written in before, but I'm doing lots of research and hopefully I can get something that's pretty fun to read.
Now, are you doing any more conventions this year? Are you done with your
Um,
conventions?
I'm probably not gonna do like a. Last year I did the Horror Fest here in Phoenix, and I didn't have quite the turnout I was hoping for. So I'm gonna do some smaller shows,
Hmm.
But I do plan on still doing book signings and shows that I can get into. Um, Someone told me about one called I think it's called Dismember for December. So it's a horror,
That's cool.
you know, convention. So I'll probably do that one. It's a little bit smaller venue, but I seem to have more luck with those. So when
Very
you do the
cool. Very
bigger
cool.
conventions, you kind of get swallowed up. I was like one of the few book writers at the convention, and it was merchandise and T-shirts, and one lady next to me had lamps that were horror inspired.
Yeah, that's the thing with the conventions. You never
So
know.
it's like
Like,
kind of hard to compete with everybody.
right, right.
So,
And there are a lot of authors at conventions, that's for sure. So there's a lot of
yeah,
direct competition. So I get that. I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned it just in case. Um,
well, I
I'm trying to
appreciate it.
think. Eh, I mean, I just want to again thank you so much for your patience and understanding of working with me side by side through
No
this
problem.
month because it has been a little crazy, and being my guinea pig for this little experiment that I decided
Bye.
that I was going to do. Um, but yeah,
Well, I'll follow it,
I,
and I'll watch how you progress. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of success with this. I do want last thing I want to mention is that if they're looking for more content, a lot of times I'll do rough draft like sneak peeks on my website, author derekbarton.blog. I'll also do blogs on self publishing. Blogs reviewing movies, reviewing books, that kind of thing. So, I try to stay busy on that end of things as well.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. There's a lot of information on his website, especially if you're a new author and you're trying to figure it out. And that's
Right.
partly why I want to showcase indie authors because I think there's a lot of talent in the indie space, but they don't get as much of the viewership because they don't have the big bucks for the big campaigns and the shop stores and
I think it
that
would
kind of
shock
thing.
people to know that Amazon is really flooding the market. They produce 2,200 new books a day. A
Wow.
day. So by the end of
Wow.
the week, you got, you know, 11,000, 12,000 other books that you're competing with. Just think about how
Mhm.
many books are out there by the end of the year. So you know, it's one of those where you just have to try to win your local markets more than anything, I think. I'm learning that, yeah, some people do strike it lucky, and they get the big markets and the big, sudden notoriety. So that's
Mhm.
great, but not all of us are going to be struck by lightning.
Right, right. Win that ticket. Um, so eventually, I want to get a stamp so I can stamp all the books that'll be joining the library shelves here at the Horror History and Haunting Library. Um, so just symbolically, we're going to stamp them, and they are accepted now into the Horror History Library for the library shelves, and there'll be a permanent fixture here. Eventually, I
Well,
want to do a
thank you.
background and put
It's an honor to be your
everybody's
first.
works behind me. So I do appreciate that. And I do appreciate your time for the show today and working with me and finding a place so we can still get this done before the end of the author spotlight of the month. Once again, make sure you purchase episode 1 so you can be caught up before episodes 2 and 3 come out. The Victims Anthology, he has a couple different anthologies out there. This one in particular is the one we covered for the podcast, and then of course the large Gates of Hell, which it's not just his stories in those. There's a couple other authors and victims, and then there's a whole bunch in uh, Gates of Hell. So check those out. Thank you again, as usual, for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I hope you liked the surprise pop in today. I just want to make sure we got it out there. And as always, uh, you know, I, brain, my brain ain't braining. Um, I,
You didn't hit a
every
tree in
day,
the car or anything, right?
right? I'm trying to get whew, my brain is everywhere today. It's something else. But what I meant to say was basically, today is a new page, to the new chapter, the rest of your life. So make it a good one. And thank you for watching. And I hope you have a wonderful night. Thanks again, Derek. Have a
Once again,
wonderful night.
good luck
Bye
with
bye.
this.
Thank you.